Hello, Jamie from Inky&Scrappy back with the Ink Road design team today using the Cluck stamp set. This is going to be a series on my channel, so if you're interested in series or this stamp set, this will be, I'm going to try to get them within the next couple of weeks, all of them up, so stay tuned. So for this one, I really wanted to do the angle on it with this new stamping tool. I struggled immensely, and so I ended up pulling in, this is just a cheap sticky grid background from Amazon. It's like a generic Cricut mat. I've cut them down to fit in multiples of, stamping tools and or for different reasons. And so this one was just in my desk. I think it's cut for the Tim Holtz stamp platform. But I just needed a grid of some sort on there to get me kind of what I was looking for. And it kind of helped me to get, a pattern forming. I definitely struggled more with this one than I wanted to struggle with this one. I thought it was going to be a lot easier. Of course, I wanted to do the angle, and the angle did not work. I ended up filming it, cutting it out. I still have it. It looks okay. It was such a struggle to get it to work. I think I figured out that if I would have cut a piece of paper, like, the angle that I wanted on a corner of piece of paper, then I could slide it up and down, kind of making myself a guide. I think I could get it done at an angle a lot easier. The other thing I struggled with is I was trying to do two stamps at once, and they didn't line up when I shifted. Like, it was one of those that I probably would need to figure out the shifting issue on it if I'm going to do more than one sentiment stamp for a background at a time. So it's a learning curve, and I will let you know if I figure it out on my own. But yeah, it'll probably get recorded at some point in time, and I will, let you know how it goes from there. But I'm thinking if I make myself a actual template to move the paper along at an angle, it'll work better. But since I couldn't do that, it was beyond my brain functioning at that point in time. So since I knew that I wanted to cut this one, I wanted it at an angle. So I did make my sheet of paper 6x6 so I could bring in a die cut here. This is, for me, the easiest way to get a, 90-degree angles on an angle cut is with a die set. So that's what I did, ran it through the die cut machine, and then brought back in my Distress Oxides to ink blend the back of this panel. So I'm starting here with old paper, and then I'm going to move to peeled paint, and then of course I will move on to forest moss, and then bringing in that scorched timber on the bottom. I was kind of going for, ground, and then, the greenery kind of background for the chicken to, I don't know. Mine, when they free roam, they're all over the place. So that's kind of where my color inspiration was. I wanted to do, more natural tones and go that route. So I did bring in my honeycomb stencil here. Any honeycomb stencil would work. I ended up grabbing my Tim Holtz honeycomb one and just kind of haphazardly adding some honeycomb to the background to kind of resemble chicken wire, if that makes sense. Now I also brought in my Ink Road's Salty background sentiment stamp. It's got a lot of salty words on it, so don't look too close if you don't like those types of things. I don't think I actually got a full salty word on the background, to be honest. It's just bits and pieces. I think I really would have loved, I did do it through the stencil a little bit. I really would have loved to probably do the whole entire background through a stencil. I think that would look amazing and fun. But I just kind of, hit it in different spots with words. I love text. If you watched me, I love text. So I kind of hit that on the background, and then of course we need some splatter because everything is better with splatter. Hot take, I hated my background at this point in time, but it is what it is, so we splatter and we make it work. It grew on me. I do like it now. It's just, sometimes in the moment we don't like things. I am a firm believer in keep going. It'll A, either get better, or B, it's just a card. It's okay. So I was kind of in the, it's just a card. It'll be okay. I did bring in my blow dryer here. I don't know what to call it. It's the Conair whatever one. I picked it up for, I don't know, $15. It's not as hot as the heat gun, so it's not going to remelt my embossing powder, but it helps to speed along the process. So there's that. So I just wanted to kind of heat set a little bit so I could pick up the ink with the water splatter later on. So for my image here, I'm bringing in that Cluck stamp set from Ink Stamps. And I wanted to do it so my Cluck and my chicken were together. So I usually cut everything out with my brother Scan and Cut. Granted, you could definitely do it this way by hand. I hate fussy cutting. So every chance I get, I throw it in the Brother Scan and Cut. So this one looked like it was going to work all right with the Brother Scan and Cut. This, you know, the text is cursive, so it's together. So I knew I was going to have to add some lines to make it cut properly. But ultimately, that's, you know, kind of how it goes. And I always color my images before I cut them out on the Brother Scan and Cut, especially when they're open like this. And trust me, I erase things on there because it doesn't work, and I pull them back off or pull it out and add pencil lines if I need to. So for my color combos on this one, I don't think I actually show them on camera. They are pulled from my color maps that I've done for past cards. I just looked for a greens that were going to match my background for the little bit of greenery here. And then I kind of just pulled in some other colors that I felt went well with that dustier, darker green tones. So of course I'm using my new favorite blend of those like dusty, winey, pinkish reds for the flowers. I do end up pulling them in for the, it's not a beard. Maybe it's a beard. I mean, turkey, it's a beard. The gobbler. I don't know if it's really called a gobbler on a chicken. As a chicken mom, I should know these things, right? Anyways, so I brought that color in for my red for here. I guess mine don't really have, I don't think there's a red. Like, I'll have to look better. But they just kind of, I don't know, they don't really stick out to me. But, you know, I'll have to look when I go outside to feed the chickens. One would think I'd pay attention to these things. I know the black ones have red, or like a reddish tone. I don't remember if my road, you know, if the red ones do. So I have my chickens. Let's see. I brought in some reddish browns for this chicken. I was going after the Rhode Island Reds because I have some Rhode Island Reds. They're a beautiful bird. But so for this one, I lay in my dark colors. Now, because this one is a chicken and she's got feathers, I wanted to add some feather type texture. And I am so sorry, the camera, I think when my battery's going dead and my film is, like my card is almost full, it doesn't always focus as it's supposed to. I did not know this did not focus while I was coloring. But ultimately, I go in with that darkest tone first, kind of lay down some texture and some shade where I want the shade. I'm going to come in with my mid-tone here and add another layer where the shading is. And then, of course, I'm going to go over it, you know, add some more texture lines in there for feathers. Then I'm going to go in it with the lightest tone here, and I'm just coloring in everything else. It's going to blend in the darkest and the medium tone to kind of help, I don't know, make it not so stark. But it still leaves that texture there because it's way lighter than them. And so as long as you only go over it like one time, you're not going to bleed it out too much. If you do bleed it out too much, don't worry. Go back in with your darkest and your mid-tone again over those feather lines, and they will definitely pop back out if you want them to be a little bit more noticeable. So once I had this all colored, of course, I decided that I needed to, you know, use my whole piece of paper because that's how I am when it comes to cutting things out on the Brother Scan and Cut. So I did stamp a bunch more, colored a bunch more. But for this one, to make it cut right, I just added some light pencil lines that connected the chicken to the Cluck. Yeah, I added a line across the C or the K and the Y, and then, you know, the little lines down And when I scanned it in, I made sure that it was going to cut properly. Now, I didn't pay attention on the K and the H to make sure that it was going to cut that hole. I don't know why it missed it. It just did. So it kind of chopped off the kick on the K and the H, but it still turned out, you know, good enough in my eyes to work. So I'm going to pop that on some foam adhesive, and then I'm going to pop that down onto my card, kind of keeping it towards the middle but up from the bottom a little bit. I kind of wanted to take up a little bit more real estate there. And then I'm going to stamp the inside of the card before I get too far along here. I was not exactly sure what I wanted to do on the front, if I wanted another sentiment or if I just wanted to leave that Cluck yeah on the front. So I went with she is beauty, she is grace, she will peck you in the face. Yeah. So to get my chicken on the inside to be a little bit lighter, still using that vintage sepia from Versamark, I just did a second generation stamp. So you saw me pull in a piece of scrap paper there, stamp it, and then of course it gives that lighter tone. And so it's not going to take, I don't know, it just gives that lighter tone so you can write over it and it's not a huge deal. So for the rest of my front sentiment, I went with sometimes you just got to say cluck it and walk away. So to make this one match my card, I'm bringing in some markers that go well with the pinks that I've already colored. Now, I may have stopped this card like midway, cleaned and redid my entire craft room, and then came back to it. So what did Jaime do with all of her markers? Yeah, she put them all away. So I did not know what colors I ended up using. Of course, I ended up pulling back my card out, and I kind of touched up the colors a little bit more after it was cut out. So I'm just bringing in a simple sentiment die cut, cutting that out, you know, moving it over and kind of making a custom length banner. And then I decided it just needed a nice background. I didn't like the cream. It clashed with my white. And so I ended up bringing in I think it's Indian corn blue cardstock from Close to My Heart to kind of go with the blue that is in the flower on her head. And then this is where I said I wasn't like in love with my angle. I think I would have been fine with it being straight across on this one after the fact. Yeah, because I couldn't decide if I wanted my banner to go against the grain, with the grain. You know, it was like I ended up going straight with it. I think it's fine. Either way, I think it would have looked good. And then I decided I needed to add a little something to bring in some more pinks and blues. It kind of went with the background, or not the background, the actual image. And so I brought in some pink and blue diamond dots. Some of them are leftovers from a project that I did a while back. And then of course I have the pink ones. And so they matched the closest to the pink. And so I added these. I don't know. You know, sometimes you're just not in love with something. I think I wished I would have had maybe some bigger sizes here. I just wasn't happy with the teeny tiny little diamond dots on this one. I usually use diamond dots to actually fill shakers because they give it that shakety shake sound, and then they still add, you know, some color and they look pretty. But I decided to throw them on here. You know, this is probably a hazard of me cleaning my craft room and finding things. Oh, I should use these, yeah. So ultimately, once the card is done and I walked away from it for a few days, I like it. It was just in the moment, I was not in love with it. So if you have that problem too, it's okay. We all do. It's just one of those, I think in your head you think something should look one way and then it doesn't look the way you want it to look. Yeah, it happens. So I did bring in some glitter glaze for her lady beard there, and then some glossy accents onto the eyes so they have that nice gloss and shine to them. And that will complete my card for the Cluck Gas stamp set series card one. So if you like this, there will be another one on this channel sometime soon. So please keep getting inky. Go visit Ink Road Stamps and check it out. Bye!